following is my own true story from my personal experience. They do not speak on behalf of the United States Marine Corps or any other U.S. Marine. This is my own story. If your experience is different, I cannot speak on that.
This video is going to be a collection of stories from my time in the military, specifically the first 4 parts of the Marine Corps Chronicles series. I'm making this video because these Marine Corps Chronicle videos are spread out between my old channel and this one. So I just want to consolidate all of them. That way you don't have to keep hopping back and forth between channels. And as for what happened to my old channel, it's a long story. If you really want to know, you can go to my old channel. You can watch the latest video. But yeah. I plan on doing more of these videos in the future, but also keep in mind that if anything, these Marine Corps Chronicle videos are just my way of saying thank you to every single one of you supporting this channel. It really means a lot to me, and I don't know, I just want to give back by just sharing more about myself and hopefully also keeping you entertained. That being said, there is one thing that kind of makes me tweak. Before I say what I'm about to say, I want to just make it clear that many veterans that watch my channel or leave comments, they are very, very positive. Lots of you guys leave comments sharing your own stories, and hey, I appreciate it. There is only a tiny handful that take these videos too fucking seriously. Remember, these are my stories. In these videos, I sometimes get guys leaving comments like, oh, you think mass punishment is bad? Well, try sliding your balls on a cheese grater covered in Tabasco sauce. To the few people leaving comments or something like that, these are my stories, not yours. All right, you're free to start your own channel and make your own videos. Seriously though, all right, this isn't some sort of misery contest, first of all. But second of all, chill the fuck out, all right? There is a time and place to be serious. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm talking about getting my balls checked and is genuinely rage baiting you, this channel might not be for you. And also, just beyond showing my appreciation for the fans of this channel and keeping you entertained, these videos are also meant as a way to get a glimpse into the military beyond all the recruitment posters and edits and propaganda. You know what I'm saying, right? Your recruiter probably is not going to sit you down and tell you about getting sent on a working party and then mass punished. And I'm not a recruiter, so I will talk about it. So please, if these domesticated rat videos really got you tweaking that hard, then hey, this probably isn't the place for you. But with that being said, I'm going to be showing these videos in chronological order with the order I uploaded them in. More videos in this series will be coming in the future, but I like to make them after certain milestones. So just enjoy these for now. In the Marine Corps, you will get yelled at for, well, pretty much anything. And most of the time, for absolutely nothing. Getting blasted or getting your ass chewed all means the same thing. Standing at parade rest with your hands behind your back while some raging alcoholic screams at you until your ears ring for the next few hours. And let me make this clear. If you join the Marines, you will get yelled at. I don't care how squared away you are. I don't care if you look like this. Your ass will be behind some gunny who got catfish on Tinder is now taking his rage out on you. I have so many incredibly stupid stories from the Marine Corps, but today I want to share with y'all one of the funnier ones I had back when I was a boot or new Marine in 29 Palms. On this fine afternoon, by that I mean it was in the middle of the day and it was in a desert, so I was trying not to end it all while being baked in the sun. I was called for a working party. Now, working parties are typically filled by junior Marines or boots, and they sound fine in theory, but most working parties I've been on were literally just to waste our time or do stupid tasks. And the reason why they do this is because young Marines are famously known to have poor decision-making skills. And so working parties were a way to just keep us busy. On this particular day, myself and I think around 5 other Marines, we were asked to go on a working party. By asked, I mean, if we didn't say yes, they probably would have made us do ammo can runs up a hill or something until we passed out for being belligerent. They took us to this random section of the base I've never been on before. And we were just supposed to pick up trash, sweep, all that. The task itself wasn't anything crazy, but I just remember a couple hours into it, I was bored out of my mind and daydreaming about how far I could throw myself off a building before I could start flying. So anyways, I was on this working party when I suddenly saw this guy walking towards me in boots and utes, and he had this look on his face, that I can only describe as a shit-eating face. Dude had a mean scowl on his face, like he just took a bite out of some dookie, he found on the toilet before he walked out here. Now, keep in mind, I am a super boot at this time. I am by the books, boot camp etiquette, and so I stand tall as he walks by and say, "Good afternoon, sir." Also, keep this in mind. Typically in the Marine Corps, you have what's called a blouse or top on. When you take off the blouse, you are now what's called boots and utes. On this blouse, your Marine Corps rank is pinned on your collar. So what that means is that when you take off your blouse, unless you know that person, you have no idea who his or her rank is. Now, there's of course ways where you can get an idea of a Marine seniority without a blouse. For example, if he looks older or if he has a brown or black martial arts belt on, you can kind of tell that he isn't new to the Marines because, he has a higher ranking belt. There's also ways to tell, the way the person wears his uniform. If his uniform is beat and faded and sun bleach and looks like he came from Fallujah, then that's another sign. But then you still don't know the Marines' exact rank is what I'm trying to say. You can get an idea with what they're wearing, but you don't know their exact rank. Also, keep in mind this guy I'm talking to, he looked like he was in his late 20s, roughly. You can join the Marines up to 29 years old, I believe, or something like that without a waiver. And so going back to what I was saying, age is kind of a way to tell someone's seniority, but it's by no means definitive, right? You can join the Marines late and you would look like a sergeant, even though you'd be a private. And then the same thing goes for the belts. When I enlisted, they recently implemented a policy that restricted how high of a martial arts belt, a McMat belt, you can obtain before having to get promoted. What this means is that there were plenty of lance corporals walking around with black belts. So anyways, I say, good afternoon, sir, to this guy. Because in the Marine Corps, you are taught to address other Marines by their rank. However, if you don't know their rank, then you go by the default, sir or ma'am. So tell me why after I gave the proper greeting to this guy literally does an about face. He straight up does like a parade version of about face in the middle of nowhere. We're in a working party in the middle of nowhere. How you can do an about face like we're on the parade deck? Anyway, and he immediately starts screaming at me. He says, I'm going to quote him here. I remember his words exactly. He goes, sir, I work for a living. Do I look like an officer to you? Now, mind you, this guy is in boots and newts, so I literally have no idea what his rank is. This isn't me trying to be a smartass. I straight up have never seen this guy my entire life. I am flabbergasted. I'm holding this dumb ass trash bag as he's screaming at me, trying to figure out why in the world this man is treating me like I just executed and curb stomped his pet gerbil or something. He goes, and fix your fucking hands. So okay, whatever. So I pop into parade rest like a good little boot, as I'm getting my ass chewed. And he starts ranting about how my generation, I'm Gen Z by the way, doesn't know what respect is anymore and how Marines these days don't know nothing about the old Corps. He is so angry at this point. I literally think he's going to pass out. We were standing out in the afternoon desert sun, turning blood red, and he looks like he's about to bust out a hernia. Dude looked like a cartoon character. Dude looked like cherry Kool-Aid with how red he was turning. Dude looked like a cartoon kettle about to shoot out steam and like a red Jolly Rancher, like Santa. If he slimmed down, turned into roid rage. He starts ranting about some random shit. He starts talking about how officers don't know what a real day of work is like. Remember, I'm not even talking to this guy right now, but he's just ranting about, man, officers don't know what a real day of work is like. He starts ranting about how my generation is afraid of hard work. Well, my hands are literally sticky by mystery trash can juice because I've been picking up trash all goddamn morning. He is so angry that I began to consider the idea that maybe he thought I was somebody else. Like maybe, I was someone from his section that he had beef with and now he's taking his anger out on me or something. Because after what felt like 10 minutes of getting blasted, which by the way, my eyes started glazing over halfway through, right? It's not me being a badass or anything. It's just he's either screaming at himself or fighting the demonic voices in his head, or I don't know what he's talking about at this point. Anyways, he starts to leave. In the military, acknowledgement is important. You see, if someone, or more specifically someone higher ranked than you, tells you something or talks to you, you should have a response to what he says. In boot camp, typically you would say, aye, aye, sir. But when you get to your unit, you can still say, aye, sir, or aye, insert rank. But it's more of a common thing to give a more casual phrase like good to go, or rah, or kill, or whatever the hell you want to say. So anyways, so he leaves and I say, good to go. Tell me why this rat bastard turns around and says, good to go? It's not good to go. Okay. Good to go is a figure of speech, okay? The same way when you respond to someone with okay doesn't mean that the current situation you're in is okay. You're just acknowledging them. This guy proceeds to scream at me again about how my generation has no respect. I don't know this guy. I don't know this guy. I've never spoken to him or seen him before in my life before this man. The only words I've gotten out to him at this point is good afternoon, sir, and good to go. So I managed to roid rage this guy in the span of 6 words, which is pretty impressive, by the way. I remember as he's chewing my ass out, again, this big fucking nasty glob of spit emerges from his mouth as he's screaming at me and flies towards my face like in slow motion. I try to dodge it without making it seem too obvious by just shifting my head over. Again, this guy's like, he's not far from my face, and this glob of spit lands on the corner of my mouth, just enough where I can feel some of it trickling into my mouth. And me trying to dodge his super soaker spit glob seemed to just piss him off even more. At this point, I just think the dude's crazy, like straight up, like nutter butter crazy, all right? He rants for maybe another minute about respect, or To be honest, I don't even know what he's talking about. And then he leaves. I don't say anything this time. And he's maybe like 5 steps away from me when he turns around and says, "By the way, I'm a sergeant." For the longest time, I thought, maybe it was normal, or, maybe when you became a sergeant, you had to go through this initiation that makes you want to chew out and haze boots, But when I became a sergeant, I had no desire to do any of that. And I realized that guy was just an asshole. Moral of the story, take your meds. If you're going to join the Marines, learn how to pucker up and take it, because that's all you can really do sometimes. In the Marines, you will get piss tested constantly. However, military piss tests are not like civilian ones. In the civilian world, you show up to your clinic, you sign in, and they bring you to a nice private little bathroom or stall and give you a nice little cup to do the deed into. By deed, I mean pee, and not the other thing. And then once you're done, you leave the little cup they gave you in the toilet, or not in the toilet, on the toilet, and then you check out. That is not the case in the Marines. The piss test, or I like to refer to as the diddling, is something that from day one of the military, you will be doing all the way until your contract ends. Or until you die, but hopefully not that. If you are a person that gets pee shy, meaning that when you are being watched or pressured, you find it hard to pee, let's just say you're going to have a real great time in the military. I mean, there was a time when we literally had like 3 to a urinal, but whatever, I'm getting off track. That's a story for another time. So when it comes to military piss tests, or urinalysis as they call it, this is how it usually goes. Every month a piss test roster comes out with the names of the unlucky chosen few who have to then head to wherever the piss test is being administered, which is almost always at a bathroom, or as we call it, the head. Now, while piss tests are conducted monthly, I have seen people pulled aside for piss tests, either individually or not within that monthly schedule. There was most likely a special reason, but just know that shit is not sweet, even if you don't find yourself on the list for that month. Also, the names on the list are pulled randomly, so you can luck out and you can go months without being diddled. Or like me at one point, end up hitting the PP roster like 3 times in a row. So anyways, you get to where the urinalysis is taking place, and usually it's in the middle of a workday, so you're usually in your camis. You take off your blouse and you go into what's called boots and utes. If you don't know what that is, check out my first video. Now, here's another thing about these tests. Usually you have 0 warning when they're taking place until you get the roster. So you often get caught at weird times. I mean, sidetrack, but I remember this one time I literally just used the bathroom and I got a text right afterwards by my platoon sergeant telling me to take a piss test. And so for the next hour, I was just standing outside the bathroom chugging water and hating my life because I didn't have to pee. Anyways, getting back on track. So after going into boots and utes, you sign in and then you choose an empty cup, where then you place down your military ID in the place of where that cup was. After grabbing the cup, you then take off the lid and you're supposed to examine it and give verbal approval that you want this container. That way you can't claim in the future if it was contaminated or something crazy like that if you do pop positive down the line. You then get escorted by one of the people administering the piss test, and so the entire time to the bathroom you are holding your piss cup over your shoulders in plain view so that everyone can keep an eye on it and make sure you're not doing anything like devious or something. You then go to the urinal where that person escorting you, usually it's a Navy corpsman or another Marine, has to then physically watch the pee leave your dingling. Like I said, this is not your civilian piss test. I was never one of the unlucky Marines asked to PP watch during a piss test, but I do believe that it is an actual requirement that you have to watch the pee physically leave the person's privates during the test. So here is where I have to talk about the 3 types of piss test escorts, starting with the first type and my favorite, the chill one. The chill piss test escort usually stands back to the side unless you do your thing, or maybe glances quickly down after you pull down your pants and then takes a step back. Now, some people may hear that and say, oh, well, that person isn't doing their job. But to be honest, as long as that person is there, you can't really cheat on the piss test. Remember, you are in boots and utes right now. You have a thin green t-shirt on top, and sure, you have your cami bottoms with a bunch of pockets, but you can't easily access them once you unbutton your pants and drop them without it being really obvious. Not to mention that you have other Marines also taking the piss test, and they have their own escorts too. And then on top of all that, you have Marines going in and out of the bathroom, usually to, use the bathroom. So even if your guy isn't paying attention, someone will notice if you pull out some devious contraption to cheat on the test with. And what are you gonna do? Bribe everyone? How are you gonna know who's gonna escort you? How are you gonna know who's gonna come in and out of the bathroom? And so anyways, you get the point. The chill guy I love because he's doing his job still and it doesn't feel like I'm getting diddled. The second guy is what I call the by the books. There's nothing much to explain here other than the fact that he probably hates his life and he has to stare at private parts all day long. He will watch your ding-a-ling from start to finish, sure, but he doesn't do much more than that. And usually he hates his life as much as the guy taking the piss test is. And now we get to the last and most diabolical type. the diddler. This guy does way too goddamn much. He low-key enjoys his job a little bit too much. In fact, you will feel like you got diddled afterwards. I mean, there was a time where I was told to go to this piss test pretty early, right, in the morning. And I happened to be close by to where the piss test was being held. So when I got there, it was really only just me and like 3 other people who were running the piss test for that day. I sign in and one of the corpsmen takes me to the urinal where I'm gonna, do my thing. Well, we get to the urinal, and mind you, I'm 5'11" in real life, but this guy was more than a head taller than me. He had to be at least 6'3" or 6'4". I start unbuttoning my pants, and you usually leave room between you and the urinal so you can, grab the cup and you can do your thing, but also so your piss test guardian can see what you're doing, and so, I left a gap and all that. Well, this guy stands like almost directly behind me, and he is close. Like he's almost straddling me. Now keep in mind, this guy is towering over me the entire time also. I low-key felt like I was getting diddled. I keep it cool, and I assume this guy's just spacing out, and so I stop for a second and go, oh, my bad, man, I'll give you some space. Space meaning so he can stand to my left and watch me piss instead of straddling my ass. Dude moves over to the left, and he doesn't say shit. He doesn't acknowledge me, he doesn't make any sort of noise, he just steps to my left, dead silent. Whatever, this is the Marines, I can deal with it. I start pissing, and this dude slightly leans in where he's so awkwardly close to me that I'm getting really uncomfortable, and he just stares. Dude stares like he's bird watching or some shit, Like, dude had the most intense stare in his eyes that I've seen another man have while watching another man's meat. And I'm not gonna lie, at this point, I thought it's wraps. That's it, curtains, I'm gonna get diddled. I mean, this guy was probably the diddler. And so I continue to do my thing the entire time, and he doesn't say shit. I finish up and leave, and let me tell you, I felt violated afterwards. More than usual for a piss test. The point in all this is that if you enlist, you will inevitably sign away a lot of rights and comforts that you're used to as a civilian, that being privacy and beyond. But also that you can't feasibly cheat in a military piss test, at least from what I've seen. So think twice before you start puffing on that reefer. Do not use drugs in the military. It is a bad idea because as far as the government is concerned, if they catch you puffing on that gas station gas, you might as well be caught smoking crack and butt chugging cough syrup because they will treat you like you just did. For civilians out there, this might seem like an overreaction, and in my opinion, it is. The government does not joke around though when it comes to that reefer. Or, ban drugs in general. If you get to know what the piss test is like, you will know that you cannot cheat the piss test. And if you want to see how the piss test works, you can check out my previous video on this series. But anyways, let's just say that you are not going to cheat the piss test, so you might as well do the right thing. In the Marines, I have seen my fair share of Marines get the bad conduct discharge, which is what we like to refer to as the big chicken dinner. And this is not the big chicken dinner that you want. And you get it for popping on the piss test. So today I'm going to share with you a story about the time that one of the Marines I knew puffed on that forbidden grass while in service. But to begin, I need to provide some context. As an NCO, which is a non-commissioned officer, I was not the type to go up the chain of command for issues that could be resolved on a lower level, meaning that I saw no need to escalate a problem if it could be helped. Because of this, I have had many Marines throughout my career come up to me for advice or whenever they were in trouble because they knew that as long as they were genuine about it, and don't worry, I could tell, I would work with them to resolve the problem. I'm of course talking about trivial things or, things that could be worked out. Obviously, if you came up to me telling me that you, killed 3 people and have kids locked up in your basement, I would escalate up the chain of command. Hate me for it, but again, that was my leadership style. Resolve shit if it can be resolved and leave it at that. So anyway, this story takes place when I was a young corporal stationed at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. And one day I was at the chow hall when a Marine I knew decently well. We weren't close friends or anything, but he came up to me because he had a problem. As far as I know, this Marine is still in the Marines, by the way. So if they trace him back somehow, he'd probably get in trouble for it. So I'll just call him Smith. Smith was a solid dude. He worked hard. He didn't really cause any trouble. He got in a few fights here and there, but it's whatever. Everyone gets into fights here and there. Well, he comes up to me in the chow hall one day, and this dude looks nervous as hell and suspicious as fuck. And he tells me that he needs to see me after chow and for me to come to his room. But I'm not stupid. I can tell something's wrong. And so as I'm finishing up my food, I'm thinking anywhere that, he got a girl pregnant, he bought a Mustang for a 50% APR, he killed somebody, I don't know, man. There was a lot of scenarios running through my head. So I walk up to his room, and this dude is he's already outside his room, pacing around again, just looking suspicious as fuck. I go up to him and I ask him, what's up? And he pulls out this Ziploc bag with some of that Zaza in it. Well, there's not much in this bag. In fact, there was so little that I didn't even know what I was even looking at until I leaned all the way in. And there was so little, you could probably you barely even roll a joint with it, right? It was tiny. And so as I'm figuring out what I'm looking at, he asks me what he should do. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of looked at him like he was stupid because what you expect me to say other than throw that shit away. So I tell him, but hey, I mean, this is the military, right? If you pop on that piss test, they don't care if you just smoked once, if you took one little puff, or if you smoked every day, they're gonna treat you the same. So of course I tell him to not smoke it and get rid of it. But I get curious. So I ask him how he even got that ganja in the first place and why it's on base. So he tells me that last weekend, his friends came over from Los Angeles and they were just gonna kick it, party, whatever. And they used Marine Smith's car. And again, Marine Smith is the Marine that I'm talking to. And Smith's friends go back to LA and Smith finds his bag of the devil's lettuce in his car that his friends left accidentally. Now, LA is like a little over 2 hours away from where our base is, which is near San Diego. And so his friends told him just to keep it because, there was barely any of that Zaza in the bag in the first place. And the gas, and by gas, I mean like actual gas, not the other kind of gas, to go back and forth between Los Angeles and San Diego, it was going to cost more than whatever little amount of that forbidden salad was in the Ziploc bag anyways. Smith also says that, he got piss tested recently and he hadn't smoked in a while, so fuck it. That's why he kept it. But like I said before in my other video, piss tests are random, so it's still not a good idea to smoke even after you get tested. I tell him, whatever you're about to do is a bad idea, or just get rid of it. I leave. The weekend goes by, and I figured it was no big deal, right? Problem solved. Until that following Tuesday, I see Smith in the chow hall, and this dude looks distraught. So I go up to him and I ask him how things were, and immediately I could tell something was off. And he also knew I wasn't stupid, right? So he just tells me, hey, look, meet me in his room and we could talk there. So the moment I get to his room, he tells me what happened. He tells me that last weekend his girl was coming over to see him. He says that his plan was to get rid of that weed off base. He tells me that him and his girl, they go to a hotel room and they were gonna get turned. They were gonna get wasted, whatever you want to call it. They were gonna stop by Bevmo, which is like this chain liquor store. They were gonna get a bunch of drinks and have a good time. He tells me him and his girl, they go to this hotel and they're kicking it, right? They're drinks and Modelos for locals, tequila, whatever. You get the point. Well, a couple hours in, and he remembers that he still has some of that Mary Jane on him. But he tells me, man, Corporal, I wasn't all there in the head. He tells me that he pulls out that ganja and he's like, fuck it, all right? I'm with my girl, a little bit won't hurt. And his girl's not military or anything, so she probably doesn't think it's a big deal because, it's not a big deal in the civilian world. So they smoke it. I stop him there. I'm like, wait, hold on a second. Back up just a moment, right? I'm no Zaza expert, but how'd you smoke it? And bro, he gets like this ashamed and embarrassed look on his face. Like, if you've ever seen someone do something they shouldn't, but what they shouldn't do was also embarrassing, like, I don't know how to exactly describe it, but he had that look on his face, right? I'm like, look, man, just at this point, you might as well tell me the entire thing, right? You're too far in. So he tells me, first of all, he didn't have anything to grind up the weed with. So him and his girl, they'd use their fingers and their fingernails to pinch apart the weed and break into little pieces. But then they also don't have anything to smoke with. So they tell me that the only thing they had was the hotel room Bible. And he tells me that they cut off the blank page of the hotel room Bible. And if you know, like the Bible pages, it's very thin and stuff, and they use it to roll a joint. And already as he's talking, I'm like, man, what the fuck am I listening to? And so he goes, but Corporal, he says my name, but Corporal, right? I didn't smoke much of it. And he tells me that the biblical joint he rolled, right? It burned weird, and that each of them went to take a hit, and he told me that shit was so harsh that they both just ended up having a coughing fit, and then they both took another hit, and then they just said fuck it and threw away the joint. And he says that he didn't get high from it. Now, I obviously wasn't there for that, so for all I knew, they could have both sucked down that joint, right? The Jesus pack. But the way he said it, and just the fact that I knew him, I don't think he was lying. But again, hey, I wasn't there. I suppose he could always have been lying to me. But after he told me that, I was just like flabbergasted. Like, dude really puffed on the Jesus pack, the Holy Spirit, the freaking Gospel of John pack. Like, man, I gotta get out of here, man. I'm around some crazy people, man. So the next day he wakes up, he tells me, and he knows he fucked up, obviously. So he says he wanted to tell me afterwards to like figure out a solution, but also he knew that I would be disappointed, and it's not exactly like I could do anything. I wasn't gonna like suck the THC out of his like fat lipid cells. Like what could I do, right? If you pop on a piss test, you pop on a piss test. And so pretty much I tell him that, all right, like he pretty much has two options. He could A, tell the chain of command that he messed up and risk getting the big chicken dinner, which may or may not have happened. Also, if he was telling the truth, maybe he didn't have enough like THC in his system to even pop on the piss test. But that was the first option, to tell the chain of command and hope to God they had mercy on him. The second option was to just wait it out and hope that he doesn't get tested for that month. But if he does get tested and he pops, the chain of command is not going to have any mercy on him. And I kind of left the decision up to him. But man, for the next few weeks, every time I saw this dude, he was tweaking. Like, I know he regretted his decision because when the piss test roster came out for that month, it looked like dude was about to pass out because like he was just waiting to see if he was on that list or not. The moral of the story is it's just not worth it, man. I mean, really. I mean this in a serious note, right? Don't throw away your future career for something so stupid. And so hopefully you watching this, if you're in the military right now, you don't do anything stupid like that. And sure, the Marine in the story never got caught, but that does not mean that you won't get caught. So don't risk it. In this video, I will be going over why mass punishment is one of the dumbest things that you can experience in the Marine Corps, or the military in general for that matter. Mass punishment, also known as collective punishment, is when you punish a group of people for the actions of a few individuals. Now, I am not 100% opposed to this. There are cases where punishing someone for the actions of another does kind of make sense, right? Like if someone was caught, I don't know, cooking crack in their barracks room for a year and got caught, then their roommate can't really claim ignorance unless that roommate really wants to act like everyone else is just stupid. If your friend is, I don't know, setting a daycare on fire and you just sit there and watch, then I also believe you should hold some of that responsibility and share the blame. In other words, I am only for quote unquote mass punishment if it is done on a small and reasonable scale. Now, some might argue that then it no longer becomes mass punishment, but the point is that there are ways to hold people accountable without just fucking everyone up. In the Marines, you will experience mass punishment pretty much throughout your entire career. Now, this is just speaking for myself, of course, and on the enlisted side, but I am sure that people who have been in the Marines or the military can relate to similar experiences. Generally speaking, the newer you are to the Marines, the more likely you are to experience mass punishment and just more of that dumb shit that comes with being mass punished. Once you start climbing the ranks, you still get involved sometimes in being mass punished, but it is nowhere near as bad as when you're like a fresh boot or just a newer Marine as like a private PFC and Lance Corporal. As a recruit in boot camp is essentially a mass punishment simulator, and I got nothing against mass punishment in boot camp, as the point of mass punishment in boot camp is to remind everyone that they are on a team. So the thing about mass punishment in the Marines is that it is not just restricted to like a squad or even a platoon level. I have experienced mass punishment on a company-wide level. A company being literally hundreds of people. I mean, think about being in class of like 30 people. There's always that one guy in your class that always acts out. Imagine you being punished for that guy acting out. That shit drove me insane because I was constantly getting fucked up for things I did not do. And so in this video, I want to go over some of these stories, and I want to go back to when I was a brand new Marine at 29 Palms. As being a new Marine, that's when you get mass punished the most and most severely. But first, we need some context. Fire watch in the Marines is essentially guard duty. As a junior Marine, you're usually either like standing at a post during fire watch or walking rounds, which is what we call being a rover. That shit was not hard. I'm just gonna be honest here, okay? I actually enjoyed Firewatch because, yeah, it sucks losing sleep and waking up at random times, but I found it to be pretty peaceful. I remember my nights doing Firewatch at 29 Palms, and I also remember that they would make us wear these like Scooby-Doo detective jackets. They were called all-weather jackets, but they look like the ones that detectives wear, and our woodland camis along with that. So we did rounds walking around looking like a bunch of detectives. And during Firewatch, I would usually get like an energy drink, such as like a NOS or a White Monster. Also, apparently there's like a stereotype with white monsters. I don't know anything about that. I started drinking it because, I mean, I don't think it's good for you, but I mean, this is 0 calories in it and it tasted good. So just saying. Anyways, getting back on track. So I would just do my rounds with whatever Firewatch buddy I had. And again, none of it was stressful. I mean, I didn't find it hard or anything like that. And you know, sometimes we would split up, we'd walk our own ways. But most of the time spent on Firewatch was just me sipping on energy drinks and pondering and such. That shit was not hard, okay? So tell me why people would always fuck up being on Firewatch. I remember one night, I had just gotten off of a Firewatch shift early in the morning. It was probably like 2, 3 a.m. I forget the exact time. It's been a while, but it was one of those like witching hour horror movie time Firewatch shifts. There wasn't really much going on, and pretty much everyone was asleep, which for a Firewatch shift was awesome because you didn't have to deal with people like jumping off balconies or smashing in barracks room windows for fun. That was not a joke, by the way. So the shift that relieved me also did not have much going on. They just had to like walk around for a few hours and that was it. So I get back to my room, change into my sleeping gear, do my night hygiene and all that stuff. And I'm looking at my phone and about to tuck myself in
when suddenly I hear shouting. Now, keep in mind, it has not been an hour since my fire watch shift ended, and now I hear a bunch of people screaming, mass formation, mass formation. I see a flashlight, like someone's waving a flashlight through my my barracks room window, and then I hear like bang, 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 and now everyone in my barracks room is awake, right? We all hear mass formation, mass formation. We didn't have time to put on our camis, so all of us just kind of just leave our rooms with all of our sleeping gear on. Also, keep in mind that this was wintertime in 29 Palms. 29 Palms is a desert, but the desert does get cold at night, and it's like a very dry coldness, which is so ass to be out in without at least a jacket. And I was in like a green t-shirt and green like running shorts with this thin ass polyester sweat top on top. And before someone says I don't know what real cold is like because I was in California, I grew up in Illinois, all right? I grew up in a place where some years it was like -30 Fahrenheit with wind chill. So as my roommates and I are leaving the room, we see everyone in all of Bravo Company coming out of their rooms too. Again, everyone's being called to a mass formation. We are all tired, we're all pissed off, and we're just wondering what the hell is going on. We make our way to our usual formation spot, which is like, there's like this big parking lot right next to the barracks room, like next to our building complex. And we start forming up. And I'm thinking like, yo, this chain of command has to be rage baiting me, bro. Like, there ain't no way on a random ass weekend they have all of us just standing outside in the middle of the freezing cold in fucking like shorts. And I gotta be up in PT in like a few hours. We gotta do like ammo can runs or something in a few hours. Like, I do not want to do that shit sleep deprived. Finally, when the entire company gets formed up, some sergeant, or he might have been a sergeant, he might have been a staff sergeant, but whatever, he starts explaining what happened. Apparently, after my fire watch shift, the group that relieved me did their rounds for about half an hour before they hid back in their barracks room to take a nap or sleep. Now, I'm not gonna pretend like this is the first time I've seen something like this happen, but usually you don't do it right on the start of your shift. And what happened was the NCO in charge noticed that he started seeing less and less Marines doing their rounds around the barracks. Again, rovers walk around the barracks complex. He stands outside in the courtyard, like between all the buildings, and he stares at each of the barracks rooms, which should have had Marines walking in circles and doing rounds in. And it doesn't take, I don't remember the exact time, but it doesn't take that long to walk a full circle. And he notices that some buildings have nobody walking around, even after like 15 minutes of standing and staring. So he ends up calling back all the rovers via a messenger back to the duty desk to take count. Well, the people skating their shifts obviously don't get the word of returning to the duty desk, and they think that they can just pop out like an hour before their fire watch shift ends and then blend in with everybody else. By the way, these fire watch rosters change pretty often. There's no like massive group chat for each fire watch shift, if that makes sense. So you can't just instantly communicate with anyone. Sometimes an NCO would like make a small group chat, but usually people don't do that because you have like 60,000 group chats. Anyways, so as the duty NCO is taking count, he notices that he is missing like half the rovers. Now, those rovers could have been hiding in any room. And so why mass formation was called does make sense. But what comes next does not make sense. After this duty NCO explains what happened, some other dude, and by the looks of him, he was like a senior NCO or something. Again, I couldn't see, I was in the back of the formation, all right. But he starts screaming at us, the entire company. Again, I'm in the back of the formation listening to what he's saying, and it's not really that hard because he's screaming, although I can barely see him. And this dude was about to give himself hemorrhoids with how angry he was. He was like, all of you are shitbags who think you're back on the block. Let me personally catch in if you skating during Firewatch. I will fuck you up. Dude screams for probably 5 minutes straight at all of us. And he ends with, what did I say about policing your own? None of you are getting libo this weekend. Mass formation on Saturday. In camis, none of you better be off base. I'm standing there now, pissed off. Because again, I'm cold, I'm tired, I need to be up for PT. And now I find out that my ass doesn't even get the weekend off because one of the dumbest excuses for mass punishment is used. Police your own. Again, I agree with that statement on a scale that makes sense. But why in the flying rat fuck am I getting punished and blasted because some assholes didn't want to do their fire watch shifts? I did mine. And also, I don't know these people. I don't know their names. I've never seen them before in my entire life. Bravo Company, the company I was in for comm school, is huge. Am I a god? Was that supposed to turn on spectator mode in real life? How was I supposed to know that half of the fire watch left and hid in their rooms? They didn't come to my room. And you know what the worst part is? Some variation of mass punishment happened literally every week I was there. Because when you get a bunch of fresh high school graduates in a desert in the middle of nowhere with nothing but time on their hands and no car, crazy things start happening. Every single week, I was getting fucked up because someone in our company was always doing something stupid. Fights, drunk fights, underage drinking drunk fights, DUIs, damage of government property akin to arson. You name it, I guarantee some variation of it happened while I was a junior Marine in 29 Palms. The worst thing about mass punishment in the Marines is that it is implemented in the dumbest way possible. And it is truly one of the worst things experienced in the military, obviously dying and stuff, but you know what I mean. If you start punishing everything and everyone on an unreasonable scale for the actions of a few individuals, it does not create unit cohesion or a desire to quote unquote police your own. All it does is make Marines that want to do the right thing just stop caring. And the lesson in all this is that when I eventually climbed the ranks and became an NCO myself as both a corporal and a sergeant, I never mass punished anyone. I never forgot what it felt like to be on the shit end of mass punishment. And my advice to anyone in any leadership position is that mass punishment should be a last resort, if even used at all. I promise you that you can only use mass punishment so many times before it backfires and nobody gives a fuck anymore. This is my Twitch, by the way. I plan on streaming in the future, although not right now because I've got some stuff going on in my personal life that limits my time. But in the future, this is where I'll be streaming. Hope to see you there, and thank you again so much for watching. Take care, and I appreciate every single one of you, and bye.